Hello, my name is Ray Edmonds. Welcome to our art workshop. Today was part 2 of how to see as an artist sees. The last time we talked about the basic building blocks of a picture: the square, the rectangle, the triangle, the circle, and an oval. Today we're going to take those basic forms and develop them into pictures. Why don't you join us? Well, here we go. These are the forms we talked about last week, or in the last video. The square, the rectangle, some other rectangles of different sizes, the oval, the circle, triangles of different sizes and angles. So all of the basic forms in nature would conform to some variation of these forms. We showed you examples in the other video, and I'll have a link to that at the bottom of my page. But you see, here is one example. I don't know if you can see this. I'll try to outline a little darker. We showed you some very quick sketches of what you could do with squares and triangles, with people, for instance. Here you see basically a triangle-shaped person. A lot of artists draw people, particularly in watercolors, this way. And you can just put some arms on them. And the shapes of the head can be different size too. We got pointed headed people, and we got oval people. We have round faces. Here is a variation of a square, right? And sort of same way, we've got a triangle there, but a sort of a boxy looking legs. And the arms are sort of what? Rectangles again. So now you can begin to shape these up if you're trying to draw them actually look like a person. Put some character into them. But for right now, that's all I really want to show, that you can put these forms any way you want, and they turn out to be characters. And I won't go through the other forms, but you can make people out of the other forms as well. All right, let's then look at how we can move this into a picture. On ovals, one of the ways that you can draw wildlife, for instance, is to take that same basic oval, put a little oval or elongated oval up there for the body of this duck. Sort of a triangle there with, again, you see the forms here: triangle, rectangle, and the oval. And the oval here, and a sort of triangular shape for the tail. There's sort of a triangle for his upper wing. There you are. You have a duck. You can continue to do that same pattern. Make a lot of ducks flying in the sky. Let's put this one with their wings up. See, there's the triangle and the rectangles. You want to break it down like that. And up here you have what? The oval again, coming down, meeting the body. Put a little triangle for a bill. There you are. So it's very easy when you begin to use these kind of forms. looking at any picture that you see in nature, and then say, where are the squares, the rectangles, the ovals, the circles? Very easily. Let's start with the square. Well, that picture has a little house sitting sort of in the middle of it. I'm drawing this darker than I would if I were painting this normally, but I want you to see it, and I think you can see that. And then there's a triangle here too, the shape of the land coming out sort of like this, if you can see that. Sort of like this. You see the triangle there? If you look in this picture, you'll see the triangle part of the land. And there's the house. Well, the house has a little window in it. We'll put that in there. And you can't see much of the side, but we could put a sort of a door there. And this is a very simple one. There's a dock coming out, which is what? It's a rectangle. We won't finish it back here because some weeds would be hiding that. And some posts in it, pilings for the dock. And sort of an eye stopper. One of the things in art, we don't want something pointing off the page this way because our eye will keep right on going. So we need some sort of eye stopper here. And let's put a sort of a skiff here. And we'll put a post that he's tied up to. That sort of stops your eye. You see all the rectangles in the boat? That's sort of a rectangle, a rectangle here and a rectangle here. And all these little rectangles inside the boat. I'll shade this in so you can have a better view of where the seats are in here. And that's about all there is to it. Now you can put some trees in, some bushes. They're really not trees so much. Back in the back there are some far distant trees. There's a little bit of a marsh sticking out there in a far horizon. There's the water way out there. So that's about all it is to that picture. And I believe you could paint that. Put some little bushes around the building. Here and there, some bushes in the marsh. And that's all it is to it. Well, here are a series of photographs now that I want you to look at and see if you can see the forms that we've been talking about. The square, the rectangle, the triangle, the oval, the circle. See if you can find those. Now this is a very simple picture. Anyone ought to be able to draw this one. It's basically just a straight line with some little trees in the background. So that's very simple, and some straight lines here for the marsh. Here's another marsh scene, and this one's a little closer than the other one. Here you see your box with a little rectangle for a door, some rectangles for the boat here. Here's sort of a triangular form here, the landmass going down this way. So you visualize that. You would see this is basically a triangle here. There's your horizon out there with some faraway trees, a little bit of marshland there with some trees behind that. And on top of that boat is, of course, just a little cover. So this is a very simple one to paint. You can eliminate some things in there, but you could try something simple like this to paint or to draw. Here's another simple one. So really there's no excuse to say you can't draw. You really can if you try. Here is just a bunch of straight lines of very narrow rectangles. The post, of course, is the main attraction there. It's larger. And here is your seagull with an oval shaped body, and his wings come back in sort of a triangle there, and there's sort of a half circle for a head and a little tiny beak, which could like a triangle there again. So very similar to what we've been talking about. And this is another picture of the house that I had on the other video, and here it's very plain to see. Well, you say, if I can't draw, I really can't draw that. Yes, you can. Look at the basic shapes here again. Here is your square and your triangle on top. Your eye would come down like this. You don't have to know perspective. If you just draw what you see, your eye sees that line coming down here a little bit and down here, and so you basically have a rectangle there. As I say, we don't get into technical geometric terms. You don't really need to. And then the roof line comes across here and down and across. That's basically a rectangle. You have a rectangular structure up here with two rectangular windows. Put a top on it. There's a triangle there. So just do what your eye says, not what your brain tells you to do. Here's a rectangle, of course, here, and there's two triangles on top of each other there. If you can see that little indenture on the side. The door is, of course, a rectangle. The windows are rectangle. Back here you have a triangle and a little rectangle. And if you look at your eye, it's going sort of up there. That's going to the vanishing point here. For if you're interested in perspective, you can see all these lines, how they go. But we won't talk about perspective today. We're just talking about looking at forms. So in the base foundation is just a long rectangle, and the chimney is just another rectangle. So if you just look at those forms, it's very easy to see these. Now here's another picture of a farm, and you can see this barn is, if you break it down, is just again a square here with a half circle on top, and this part of the barn is also a square and a triangle on the end, a rectangle up there. Here's a rectangle with a half circle on top of it, another curved structure which sort of, break it down, which would be a half circle, and also the basic box, at the rectangle box at the bottom with some doors in there, and some more rectangles for structures. So it's very simple. Your eye goes away this way as leads into the picture, but that's really a triangle, isn't it? Triangular here. Now here's a little exercise in these old milk cans are nothing more or nothing less than what? A series of rectangles again. All of these are rectangular. And then at the top we've got the little half circle, and then an oval for the lids and the openings. So if you take them one at a time, each one of these is slightly different, so it would be a good study to do. Each one is slightly different, a little bit of curve in each one, but just break that down into its parts. Even the handles are ovals. Ovals. So even a more complicated picture becomes simpler when you break it down. Now here's a barn, a beautiful old barn to paint, and this one is on that same farm with that house we talked about. I love this picture. I haven't painted it yet, but you see here's a triangular area. It's that whole thing is a triangle. Now it's slightly different here, so you would start with a triangle here at the top if you were observing it, and then this shape here, come across, down, across, up, and the sides. This is all a rectangle here. A series of all kinds of rectangles in here for doors and large doors, small doors, openings, large door up here, all kinds of rectangles. So it's not nearly as complicated as it might look. And of course your line continues to the roof line down here, you might need to know a little perspective, but observe carefully. Hold the pencil up to your eye like that to see these lines coming down, and that will help you. Here, of course, this cylinder back here is the old grain storage, and that is nothing more than a rectangle with a triangle on top, slightly curved. The lines in it are all sort of curved to show the roundness. The fence again is what? Rectangle, series of little rectangles. So it's very easy to break all this down if you just use your eye. Now this is a house. It's a very similar kind of colonial type of house, which is nothing more but nothing less than what? A box or a rectangle. The pillars the same way. All these are openings are rectangles. The windows and the shutters are all rectangles. If you look at those little by little, you can see the whole house is just a series of rectangles, nothing more. So while it's a little more complicated, it has a little bit more in it, take your time. Just look for those rectangles, let your eye pick them out, outline them, and you'll be all right. Now this one's a little busier in one sense. Never painted this, but it would plan to someday. It's an old grocery store, and but you'll notice the prominent part of it again is this box. Little rectangles for the roof here, rectangles all over the front here. All these lines, just follow them. They're rectangles. Take your time, and you'll come out all right. And roof line runs back. It's nothing more than a rectangle with some diagonal ends. Same way with here. Here's another rectangle going away from you, so it's getting smaller, and the windows up high are again rectangles. So I know it's monotonous, but these are the basic forms, and so if you look for those, see them, see the outlines, then you'll have a much easier time. And this is, of course, is another view of the same picture. Same picture. Study it, look for the outlines, break it into parts. Now this is a much more complicated building. This is on the Outer Banks of North Carolina, an old hunting resort. And you'll see these are very prominent, aren't they? But they're really, again, just rectangles with triangles on top of them. A series of them, getting smaller and smaller as they go away. So you have about 8 or 9 of them there. Rectangles back here. The back of the house is a rectangle. You see all of these dark spaces, which is the sort of portico there. These are all, if you didn't look at the white lines, you could just look at the dark parts and draw from there. Draw these little dark boxes, one after another, getting slightly bigger each time as you come this way. A larger one here, open space here. And what you have in between then, of course, you're left with the white space, which are your columns. Same way here. And same way over here. If you look at the dark spaces, if it's easier for you to draw the dark space, what remains, of course, is the structure of the house. The roof lines and the chimneys, of course, are all rectangles again. Now, this at first looks a little complicated, but it's not really. This is nothing more, again, than a box shape rectangle. Just don't finish it down here. There's some industrial buildings in the background here. But these are rectangles, slightly coming toward like a triangle here. You could call it a triangle, I suppose. A series of triangles in the middle of all of these. You see there's a triangle, 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 triangle with lines down in the middle of each one, lines up on top of each one. So as the line goes into the point of each one, see that? Basically it's a zigzag pattern, but making triangles all across there. Same way down here. So it's not as difficult if you take your time looking at it to see the basic form of it. That's all you need if you're doing sketching. Well, get away from that little complicated one. Here's a farm scene again. And if you look at that calf, you'll see that basically that is a what? A rectangle. See how squared the calf is? A little rounded up here, sort of a triangle for a head with rounded at the top, triangular ears. The legs can be first start out as rectangles and then slightly into triangles at the bottom. And there you are. Break it down into the basic forms. Well, people will say, you know, Ray, I really can't paint even after I watch your video. Well, no, it takes practice. It takes observation, which is what I'm helping you with today and in the last video. But it takes practice. Now, I put this one in because at first it looks very busy and very maybe complicated. But if you look at each item on its own, you can break it down. Here is a circle, right? It's sort of oblong a little bit. It's flattened out, squashed, as I said in my last video. Circle here. Since you're looking down on them, they're not directly looking at them. They wouldn't be perfect circles, but they would be slightly squashed or made into more of an oval. Same way with this. Circle, circle. Inside of here are circles. On a rectangle or a square frame, you can see the rectangle here, but you could also see the square here. Rectangle coming out here, rounded off at the end, two of them side by side to make where the grain comes out. I believe that's a grinder. And in the background, of course, the finishing up these rectangles here. And back here, of course, is a box or a rectangular type of box. Over here is the grinding wheel. You see that wheel? It's an oval. You know that it has to be a circle if you looked at it directly on this way. But since from this angle, of course, look, watch, let your eye go around it. You'll see that it's an oval shape. Put another line right beside it and you've got the depth to it. Again, these are rectangles. Holding it up. Just let your eye follow the outlines and you can put it together. Not sure what this machine is back here. It's another antique. But again, it is a series of rectangles and something round, two round objects coming out there. Rectangles back here. Back here in the back you see some drums of some sort. There on the top of them is what? An oval, squared off, oval, and boxed on the bottom. Can't see the top of that one. And some other items here. So while it's pretty busy, it is can be drawn. Now you probably wouldn't want to paint or draw this except for an exercise because it's not that pretty as it stands, but it's good practice to see the items and pick them out of a cluster of items.
Well, I'm glad you've joined me for this time of looking at the basic forms in art and nature and seeing how you can make better pictures, make better drawings. Now, it's not the end, of course. You need to continue to practice observing in nature, almost observing anything. See if you can find these basic forms there. I think it will help your drawing and your painting. Glad you've joined me, and I hope that you can join me in the future. We have other videos coming with watercolor tips and some drawing tips, and hopefully you'll be here. If you like this, please hit the like button and also subscribe so that you can be the first ones to have them. Thank you for being here, and enjoy your day.